So elk season is finally here, and starting Monday, I've got 8 days to find, track down, and shoot a bull elk. For this video, what I wanted to do is just break down all of the gear that I'm bringing for this trip. Why I'm bringing it, what we're bringing, what's going in the pack, what's being left behind. We'll sort of go through all that stuff, sort of what I'm eating. We'll look at some of the dry meals, and kick it off that way. I mean, this hunt's coming up quick. It's been a long time coming. You know, I've been extremely excited about it. For a little while there, I was nervous because my bow was kind of shooting weird, so I ended up linking up with my archery tech who got it fixed for me, so I'm super grateful about that. But at this point, it's Friday night. I have to leave New Hampshire Monday afternoon. I'll drive down to Massachusetts. I'll stay down there. I'm getting up super early Monday morning. I'm driving to Boston Logan. We're going to get on the plane, fly all the way to Dallas. From Dallas, we'll get to Montrose. And then from Montrose, we're picking up the truck and heading to the woods. So let's run through the gear that I'm bringing, and then we'll kick this off. Weather doesn't look too bad while we're out there. We might get some rain, but realistically, it's not looking like it's going to be too bad. I did decide to bring First Light's Omen sort of storm shelter kit. So that's going to be a top and bottom piece, impenetrable. Basically, you're out there getting soaked, but on the inside, you're staying warm and dry. So this is going to be my first year running this kit. I'm hoping that it's pretty bulletproof. You always find out after several days of just getting rained on. Ideally, if it's one bad rainstorm, we end up just getting rained on and then hanging this in trees and letting it dry out. But I'm really curious just to see how it works. So it'll be the first year. It is a stretchier material, which I like. It fits pretty snug, so it's not super baggy. It's more of an athletic fit. I typically don't like to be too baggy on my clothes because they get hung up on trees and it's just extra fabric to make noise. So I really prefer to be as snug as possible. I also brought this sort of nano puff. It's really not that thick, as you can see. What I plan to use this for is more of a hoodie. Instead of actually bringing a hoodie, this is much lighter. It's easier to dry. I figured I'd run this with the sort of merino wool base layer. This also has a hood on it. It's long sleeved. I typically prefer the hoods to keep the sun off my neck. I don't want to get burnt out too fast. But usually I'll run that underneath a nano puff like this, and that'll keep me warm enough to stay in the game. If I get too cold, what I'll end up doing is throwing a rain jacket over the top. That rain jacket will keep you warm enough to regain body temperature and really avoid those hypothermic type symptoms that you might get if you are wet and just trying to stay warm. For sleep, I've got this Sitka sleeping bag that I've been running for years now. Sort of mummy style, so it's tapered down. It's just less fabric. It's a little bit lighter. These zippers allow you to put your arms out, and then you've got a hook on the back of this somewhere. I can't remember where. A hook, so it's right in this little tab that you see. What you do is you pull that hook out, and you can hook somewhere up on the middle of the back. Basically pulls the legs up to the back, and you can wear the sleeping bag while you're glassing. I've had no issues with it in the summertime. It is one of their lighter versions, so you're probably only going to get down to like 40 degrees maximum comfort, that type of deal. But nonetheless, it works great for early season, and that's what I typically would run. Underneath, I got this Tensor Nemo blow up. Basically, it's insulated. It's set up for extreme conditions, to make it a little bit easier to insulate your body, reflect some of that cold air that's coming off the ground and keep you warm. I haven't run a blow up yet. Typically what I do is use the jungle hammock that I have from Eno. But with us going out there, I found that running with this blow-up mattress and the Argali two-person tent, which is just the tarp and stakes, would be lighter than the Eno system. And it's a little bit easier to find a better sleeping situation. With those hammocks, you really do need two ideal trees that are perfectly spaced apart. Otherwise, you're sagging close to the ground and your back's all jacked up the next day. So ideally, sleeping on the ground with the air mattress in a blow-up pillow, which you can get these off Amazon for like 20 bucks. I figured that would be a lot more comfortable. All right, so basically the way that I store this is, you've got this Sea to Summit sort of stuff sack. You can get these on Amazon too. They're really not that expensive. When you're not using this as a stuff sack for your sleeping bag, you can use it for food, and that's often what I'll do. I do have a stuff sack over here that's also from First Light. It's one of their larger sizes. That's going to have all of my dry food in it. I'll keep all the dry food and likely my other food in this stuff sack and tie it up in a tree with this paracord. So basically this paracord is long enough to get us up there, probably like 15 feet. But the reason you want to bring paracord to store your food is you can also use it to tie the elk's ankles to a tree after you get it. It just makes it that much easier to clean them out and field dress them while you're working on the bull. Some other clothes that are going to be helpful for sleeping, I am going to bring some smart wool base layers. I found that these are just better on the body. I mean, you can use them for cold temperatures, but they also, even if they're wet, they still retain some heat. So I prefer to go with the wool over the synthetic. I used synthetic for years and years and years and years, tracking in New Hampshire. And I found that the more I tracked in it, the more I hated it. Basically what would happen is I'd be getting up the ridge and you start getting clammy. The way that synthetic works when it's cold, it's supposed to pull the moisture off your body. But what I found is it just kind of loads the moisture and then it just acts as like a freezer pack on your skin. So I would get cold quickly. But with this wool, I mean, you can be sweating, but as long as you're moving, this stuff keeps you pretty warm. It's more comfortable on the skin. Overall, I just think it's a better system to use, especially if you're active. You tend to sweat. And obviously, I'm hiking the entire time the way I hunt. It's not like we're sitting around. So, obviously, I do some tree stand hunting. But for the most part, I'm here in the mountains grinding after bucks. So for me, that system works better. Now, also for sleep, I decided to bring a winter hat for this. This is just another light merino wool hat that I'll wear in the tree stand. That's just going to be nice and easy for me to throw on at night. Usually there's a mountain thermal that pulls down the mountain. You never notice it until you're trying to sleep, and you just keep getting this blast of cold air on your neck. And it keeps you awake. So, you know, that's one of those quality of life pieces. I don't really expect to need it outside of morning and night. I'll probably run with this hat for the most part, which is designed to dump heat. And it might get pretty hot out there. There are days that look like it's going to be a little bit warmer, but for the most part, we should be fine. So, just looking at footwear now. So these are the Crispi Laponia IIIs. Pretty firm boot for the most part. You've got the synthetic top and then this leather base layer down here. And then it's wrapped. So, I mean, definitely durable. The bottoms are Vibram bases. They're a little bit thinner than I'm used to. So, I typically hunt with full-size mountain boots. Those usually have more of a heel to them and better arch support. I have flat feet, so I notice it after mile 10. I'm usually hurting pretty bad. So if anyone has recommendations on boots that are good for people with flat feet, definitely let me know. Obviously, you can put footbeds in there. I have found that they get chewed up pretty bad quickly. So if you have some good recommendations for footbeds, I will definitely take them. And then for camp, you obviously want to let your feet breathe. So you can get these at Walmart. They're they call it rugged shark. My buddy jokes around and calls them danger sharks, but these things are 12 bucks. So you're gonna beat the crap out of them in the backcountry anyway. So why spend the 30, 40, 50 bucks or whatever they are for Crocs nowadays when you can just grab these things? Super lightweight, by the way, so that's why you'd bring these. So it lets your feet air out. You're vented on the sides. So when you get out of the boot, you can still wear your sock to keep your foot warm, but your feet are essentially gonna dry that sock out before bed. I would rather dry the socks out with something that vents like this than take the socks off and then have to put them on later on in the morning when they're soaking wet and cold. Again, it goes back to a quality of life thing. When we're in the woods, we want to manage sort of our spirits, and it's a lot easier to get down on yourself when you're uncomfortable every single morning. So this is these little things that can keep you in the game a little bit longer. That's why I invest in good gear. If you can get away with gear that's not so good, but I have found that it's harder to stay out there. For water can be tough in Colorado. So what we're gonna do is store water. I've actually got 2 water bladders that I got from Hydrapak. With this 6 liter that's open, basically this cap is like a 2-piece. So this centerpiece comes out, and you've got a feeder hose in here that's filtered with a adapter. That's a separately purchased item. The hose comes with the bladder, but this is ultimately what you want right here, if I can get it out of there. So this filter plugs into the bottom here, just like that. And once you plug the filter in, you then take this hose and plug it into the filter, and like so. This hose is basically plugged up like that, spring loaded. So when you're ready and the bag's hanging upside down, basically just push this plastic piece down and it releases the water out. But the way these bags work, you can hang them from trees, just like that, right? And you've got your filter on the bottom. Water's coming down, gravity fed through the filter, and you've got clean water. Quickly, no iodine required, which would just be added weight that you don't need. I usually run a Grail, to be honest, out here on the East Coast. It's just a water bottle that you can press. It's a GeoPress system. The reason I'm not running the Grail for this is it's a little bit heavier. So one Grail is heavier than both bladders with their filter systems. So Hydrapak, check it out. This is going to be my first year using them. I do believe they have a lifetime warranty on the bladder. They are super rugged. This material itself is very firm. I'm not worried about it ripping at all. Obviously, you want to be cautious with a bladder so that your stuff doesn't get soaking wet. But ideally, that'll hold us up. We'll be able to collect water, store the 6 liter at camp, sort of set up a base camp once we get into the elk, and then when we come back to camp, we won't have to worry about like climbing down the mountain at the end of the day, getting water, coming back up, because we are surviving on dry food, which we'll check out later. As far as additional sleep items, I've got this Go Hunt tarp. This is going to go underneath your sleeping pad. It just acts as a buffer between your pad and the ground. The last thing you want to do is pop that in the middle of your hunt and end up sleeping on the ground for the rest of the trip. It's really important that you recover. Even though you're in the backcountry, you got to get good sleep. If you don't get good sleep, every night that you don't, it compiles on. It just wears down morale and you feel like shit. So this is just a precautionary step. I'm going to put that underneath my my sleeping pad. Word to the wise, do not put your sleeping pad on a bunch of loose rocks. You're just risking popping it. Even with a tarp underneath it, you could still pop it. So clear out the area that you plan to sleep on top of. Make sure that it's very smooth. Then put your tarp down. Then put your pad down. You should be okay. I mean, these things are only going to last so long anyway, so you should have a repair kit. But if you don't have a repair kit, you want to be extra cautious because you don't want to be miserable the entire trip, especially for these longer ones. We're going to be out there for 8 days. Another item that I thought was smart, so we kind of went back and forth about a seat. So I know Al's bringing a seat that sort of folds into itself. It is Very lightweight. It's designed for backcountry hunting. My thing was I didn't want to bring something that it serves one purpose. You know, when you're in the backcountry, you want to think about tools that can be used in multiple different ways. They're essentially, that versatility offers a better value set for that item. So this is something that you can use as a seat. It's basically just a firmer noodle that's on the inside of sort of like a more canvas type material. It's very durable. You can use it as a seat. You can fold it in half and then put it underneath your armpit when you're shooting a rifle as sort of a buttstock support. So there's just a few different ways that you can leverage that. I decided that ultimately it made sense to go with that over a seat just because I can use it several different ways. I just thought the seat was going to sit at camp. So it's like, this can sit at camp too, but it's light. I mean, look at this. 2 fingers, no problem. Just throwing it around. So we've got some sleep items that we covered. You know, I talked a little bit about eating dry food. We're going to leverage the Jetboil on this trip. This is something that I've used for years out here on the East Coast. My understanding is 1 liter of water, the Jetboil will boil that liter in about, I think it's something like 3.5 seconds. So super quick, boils your water, it gets you eating faster. That's one thing, like when you get back to camp at the end of the day, you're starving, you just want to hurry up the process. With this, you can essentially screw in your butane can and have hot water in seconds. Pour it into your dry food, pack it. Make sure you remove those moisture packs too. You don't want those chemicals in your body. And then, you know, after 10 minutes, you got a nice warm meal that, again, it's a morale booster. It's going to help with recovery. That's why we do these peak meals over eating, like, I don't know, a bunch of granola and dried fruit and all this other stuff. And then also you got to think about the weight ratio. It's right. This is dehydrated food, but it's calorically dense. So there's more value to carrying them than other items that you might need to carry several pounds to get the same caloric value. So we talked a little bit about the sleeping pad, how we're going to filter water. I guess this can also fall in the category of food for like peanut butter spreading and stuff like that. But this is my Iron Will backcountry knife. You know, this is something that I got a few years ago because I used to carry the heavy buck. You know, I'm from a whitetail hunting family. That's what everybody carried. The only caveat to that buck, even though it's a really nice knife, is it's super, super heavy. This is ultra light. They obviously thinned the handle to make it much lighter. It's a skinnier blade, so it's not as stiff, not as durable. But I have cut up a moose before with a 3-inch pocket knife, so this will be fine for an elk. Realistically, I'm not concerned. This is an important item right here. I always forget a spoon every single time. I usually would just take a spoon from our kitchen, but they are a little bit heavier, and I know it sounds like it's just a spoon, whatever, but after a little while, every ounce counts. So I did grab a titanium spork spoon knife combo. This is from Grail. Some more items here. We got my chest rig, okay. I've got it set up so that you have my rangefinder right here. You can see the cord coming off of it. This is just sort of a stuff sack that I use. You got your wind reader that I keep in the front. It helps with thermals. I mean, some guys don't really care about that. I don't know how. Midday, that thermal's just rising up the mountain. This is just something easy that you can open up, squeeze, see what's going on, and make sure that your wind's not blowing right at the bull you're trying to kill. This is the Phelps Game Call Easy Sucker. This is a cow call. It's super easy. Literally just put it in your mouth. I don't even know what I'm doing with the reed. So like, that's incredible that they designed that. Super easy to run while you're also trying to set up for the actual shot. That's why I ran with that. I don't need to worry about getting better with the diaphragm. And I can hold that sort of in between my teeth while I'm at full draw. Make a cow call if the bull's moving, stop him, and then shoot. So that's ideally why we ran with that. Sort of thinking practically, like we want to make sure that we're able to use the equipment effectively, and they kind of created a cheat code. So this is my mystery ranch. I've been running this guy for years. You can see I've got the bear tooth. I absolutely love this pack. It is super spacious. You can fit a ton of stuff in. You got the inside pockets, 2 divider pockets up top that fit a lot of stuff if you need it. I usually use those pockets for your quicker items. You know, if you need a knife, if you need a compass, if you need a GPS, that's just a pocket that you'd want to keep that kind of stuff in. Just quick access. You don't have to dig through your pack or unpack anything. This pack does separate. So where you have your actual frame, you can take the canvas section off of this frame that supports the backpack itself, and stuff like a elk hind quarter behind there, your game bags, that sort of deal. I am obviously running a camera for this hunt, so we're gonna run with this Peax design camera clip. Basically, camera hooks in, clips on, and it's super easy. It's super quick. You just push this button to quick release, and it just allows me to operate the camera out of the way as well. So I have it on my right side. I see a lot of guys hold it on their left. I prefer to have it low on my right side so that when I actually draw my bow, I draw, and me moving my shoulder back while I draw pulls that camera behind my armpit, and then I'm just on, hit my button, arrow goes. It's not in the way, which I can't have it in the way. We talked about sort of the short sleeve merino wool setup, or long sleeve rather, the hooded. So I'll use this instead of sunscreen basically. Keeps me protected. It's a good piece, nice and light, weirdly breathable wool, so it doesn't smell as bad in my experience as the synthetic. That synthetic stuff just holds scent so much worse. So I typically, if most of the clothes, the base layers especially that I've been using, are officially merino wool, and I'll use that during ski season as well. So I'm gonna run with these pants this year. This is the 308 from First Light. They are stretchy, they are super durable, practical pockets. That's a big thing for me. And then they're fleece lined on the inside. I don't know why, but I absolutely love fleece lined pockets. I remember growing up with, I had these wool pants that didn't have fleece lined pockets. So anytime my hands were freezing, I'd stick my hands in my pockets and they wouldn't warm up at all. These fleece lined pockets, your hands are freezing. You stick your hand in your pocket for a little while, it gets warm very quickly, and then you can get back on your gun, and you're more in the mode of hunting and out of the mode of, I need to stay warm, I need to stay warm. One thing about these pants that I really, really like, if I can do this, so let's see. So basically you just bring this zipper down, and you've got this sort of webbed, or netted I should say, fabric. This goes directly to your skin, and it just acts as like a dump vent. That's all it is. So while you're hiking up the ridge, starting to get really, really hot, you can undo your vents, cool down a little bit. I absolutely love that feature, especially for tracking deer. You know, when you're in that awkward phase where it's like it's really cold in the morning and it's still getting somewhat hot during the day, those dump pockets are a lifesaver. You're not soaking wet all day long. You can stay out there longer comfortably and just focus on that buck. I've got this is just like miscellaneous stuff. So I've got my InReach Mini from Garmin. We're gonna use that as our GPS. Headlamp, batteries, anything with batteries is gonna go in my carry-on. So I've got this carry-on, it's just like a stuff bag. I'll probably put this hard case here. This holds my camera, the GoPro, sort of extra lenses for the filters. Like if you have a ton of exposure for sunlight, you can use those to sort of mitigate whitewash. I will keep this case for transit, and then once we get to the truck, the case is gonna stay. The camera's gonna go. So what I'm going to need to do, it sort of brings up a good point. I will need to grab some plastic bags for the batteries. Usually I run 2 plastic bags as a cameraman. 1 bag is for charged batteries, 1 bag is for dead batteries. That way I don't have to play the game of, you know, camera's dying, elk's coming in, I got to switch really quickly, I have time, put the wrong battery in, you don't get the shot. That's absolute worst case scenario. This is the SKB hard case, bow case that I'm going to be running with this year. I ended up getting a new bow this year. It's the first bow that I have purchased ever, actually. The last one I had won from a National Wild Turkey Federation banquet, and I used that for like four to 5 years. Really liked it. It was shooting great. I always really wanted to build my own bow. This year I had a little bit of savings that I had saved up for the bow. It was about time to do it, and then we obviously got the elk tag, so I was like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to train on this thing all summer long. Ended up getting it early spring. When I got the bow, I ended up picking up this case, and this was recommended by the bow tech that I work with. It's a really hard shell. You've got these straps on the inside that really anchor down the bow, and it doesn't shift at all. And then they recessed the arrow holder. So typically you'll find that the arrows are up here, and the only issue, if the dividers aren't really glued down great, they start to come off the top of the case. Arrows are flying around everywhere. It's hitting your strings. It's really causing issues. I like that they recessed those arrows. They're divided down below your bow. It's more secure. Ultimately, it's just a better system in my opinion. They obviously thought pretty smart about where to keep the quiver. So the quiver's never on when the bow is in the case. Quiver sits up top, arrows go down bottom. I've got this box here for broadheads. TSA regulations do recommend a hard case, and I believe they actually require a hard case. It's kind of, I don't know, it's kind of up for interpretation, but this was just something that was offered at the bow shop. Grabbed it. He actually threw this in with the case, but this is just another SKB holder. And then these are the Sever broadhead, 100 grain. So basically you've got those two wings that you see, top and bottom. Those will hit the hide, open up, blade from the side opens. You're supposed to get over 2 inches of cutting power with these broadheads. They fly very true. One piece of warning for everybody that's new to archery and getting ready to get out there this year: make sure you shoot your bow with your broadheads before you get out there. I was shooting these Severs with my hunting hunting arrows rather, and I was running into a lot of issues where arrows were flying in and they're doing all sorts of wild stuff that they don't normally do. Turned out my bow needed to get tuned, so got my bow tuned. Actually had to shim the bow. Once I did that, arrows are flying straight. They're going exactly where I need them to go. So that's no longer an issue. But if I hadn't done that, I probably would have missed the elk by 2 feet, genuinely. So make sure you go and get your broadheads on your arrows. Shoot with the arrows that you're going to hunt with. Make sure you put the broadheads on. See how those are hitting your target. Make sure they're patterning really well. If they're not, go to the bow tech. See if it's the arrow. If the arrow's not straight, that could be an issue. If the arrows are straight, it's definitely your bow. Your bow's going to get tuned or need to get tuned. This is something I'm doing this year for travel. Usually I'm driving places, and I never have to worry about luggage, but you know, all of this gear is really nice. It's going to go in my mystery ranch. And I don't want any of the buckles to break. I don't want any of the straps to rip. I don't want this thing to get beat to shit before we even get out there. You know, I've had this for years and I've still taken good care of it. So I just went to Walmart and grabbed this Wrangler. Literally gonna stuff my ruck that's packed in this as like a protector shell. Let this get beat to hell. And then once we land, I'll know exactly where my bag is. I'll grab this guy, pull it off the conveyor belt there. We will get in the truck, and then the plan is to just unzip this, grab my pack once we actually get to the woods that we're going to be hunting in, leave this thing there, not have to move anything out of that pack, and just go. That because we're going to be getting out there later in the afternoon. The stuff sack that I had mentioned earlier is this First Light large size stuff. Basically, it's water resistant for the most part. It does hold in scent so that, you know, bears are less likely to find your stash and start messing with it at night. This will be breakfast some mornings. We've got some more breakfast. Some more breakfast. Just a couple examples of some good stuff. So I really like this venison country casserole. It's fantastic and honestly hits the spot, especially while we're out there. But the tried and true best meal that Peak has to offer is the chicken Alfredo. I love this more than anything. So I've actually brought an additional chicken Alfredo for this trip so that I can eat 2 of them one night, because I just know I'm going to need the carbs, and I'll end up just probably eating all of that super quick and need to survive on candy or something the rest of the night. The Tricer AD tripod is what I decided to grab this year. I didn't have a tripod. I wasn't really sure what direction I wanted to go. They have interchangeable heads that you can put on this tripod. Use it as a shooting stabilizer. You can use it as a spotting scope. You can use it for binos. So realistically, what I loved about this is, one, the durability. This is a carbon fiber stand. Super quick release to extend the legs. It's literally as simple as that. I loved the speed. I loved the durability. I've run into tripods in the past that were just not great. So I wanted to make sure whatever one I went with this year was going to stick around for a long time. I believe Trice is going to be the go-to. This is my first year with it, so I will report back on that. For a spotting scope, we're running a Vortex. Okay. This is the 16 by 44 by 65. So far, this has been great. Off our back deck, we've got like a whole valley out in here that you can see. With this, I can see the brewery down in town. Check the line and see if it's worth going down there for dinner or not. It's kind of funny. I also put an on-glass adapter on the front here. So basically, the way this works, you've got your phone. On the back, you've got the on-glass adapter. You just flip off this magnet cover, which protects the actual lens, and then with your phone you can just pop the magnet right on there. It lines up perfectly with your camera and you can videotape game. The other piece to this, so I expected to need climbing sticks. You don't necessarily need them, but I knew I was going to bring them for extra support, especially if we end up getting a bull. It just helps you climb up the mountain with all the gear a little bit easier. It's obviously offering additional stability on the way down. You know, I got skier knees from when I was a kid, skiing competitively in jumps. Like, my knees go pretty quick as far as stamina wise, and climbing sticks will help get me a little bit farther without that extra pain. These climbing sticks invert on each other, so basically you've got an adapter piece that's in the Argali tent. This piece goes in between. You take these 2 orange pieces off. You screw these heads into each other, and these poles end up being your center pole of your tent. So instead of carrying tent sticks, it's extra weight. It just ultimately makes your pack a little bit heavier. Again, it goes back to the versatility mindset of the seat. These sticks have multiple purposes. Why bring a tent with stakes when you can bring a tent and use your sticks as the stake? So that's sort of an overview of everything that I'm bringing. I mean, what was once a nice pile is just sort of a mess. We're going to get this thing all packed up, reorganized. I've got a list on my computer that I'm going to go through, make sure that we have all the items that need to be present in my backpack. So I'll pack the pack for the actual hunt, and then extra items that are going to come with me, like clothes for the ride back home once we get on the plane, sneakers, you know, cases that aren't going to come with me out in the backcountry. Those are going to go in my carry-on. So all that stuff's going to get packed up, reorganized, and we're going to make sure that I've got everything in order so that I don't have to worry about it once we're in Colorado. The final piece to this video, perhaps the star of the hour, this is the Hoyt Alpha AX2. This is a custom build that I did with LL Cody in northern New Hampshire. I did it in the green. It's a 32-inch bow. I believe he's got me at 72 pounds right now. You've got a nice, I think it's Hamsika. Don't quote me on that peep. I can't remember exactly. And then you've got the Spot Hog Boonie slider. I run it in a 5-pin, which does seem excessive. I don't necessarily need to run a 5-pin, but the way we hunt on the East Coast, and honestly it is an advantage for elk too. I've got those set yardages from 20, 30, 40, 50, and then the bottom one's set at 55 for this hunt. Next year we'll do it a little bit differently, but I figured I'd run it like that to have a little bit of play with that final pin in case we've got a bull at 60 or, you know, 55, like just sort of floating in that range. In the woods, it's not really going to matter. They're probably going to be closer than that, but this will make it so that I don't have to mess with the wheel, the slider, too much, and I can just get the range, get on the bull, know my pinning, and send it. So I've got two 12-inch bars, one on the front, one on the back to stabilize this bow, and the stand in the front. It does add extra weight. A lot of guys are like, why would I add that if I'm going to have to carry this bow all over the place? I frankly recommend it because if you're trying to rake the ground and you've got an arrow knocked, you're trying to rake the ground, you're trying to call, you're messing around with like a wind checker, anything like that. When you have an arrow knocked and your bow is horizontally on the ground, it like bends the arrow weird. The broadhead might get caught in grass and weird stuff like that. With that stand, it keeps your bow vertical. You can keep it an arrow knocked. Be messing around with whatever you're messing with. Specifically, this works for whitetails. Like if I'm banging antlers together, I can keep my bow vertical, and if I see him coming in, it's like I'm not messing with like getting caught on grass or anything. I can just pick my bow up and shoot, right? That's why I decided to go with the stand. It is a little bit heavier. The Spot Hog Boonie is a little bit heavier because it's metal casing all around. But ultimately, this bow has been solid for me. It's incredibly accurate. It's incredibly smooth. I don't know if I'll ever switch from Hoyt, to be frank. I haven't shot a Matthews yet, but you know, that's something that I'm open to doing. I just haven't got around to it. Right now, that AX2 is what it is. I love it. So, final piece of the puzzle, you've got this power bank. Basically, it comes with this solar panel system that sort of folds out on itself. Negative feedback on this, I mean, it's a little heavy, a little bit heavier than I wanted it to be. But it does have some restorative capabilities as far as the battery with those solar panels. So I decided to go with that, even though it's a little heavier. But it is also a battery, so that they can only do so much. But realistically, I will use that for charging my phone. I'm going to keep my GPS off unless I absolutely need it. I'll pre-download maps for Colorado on OnX so that I don't need any cell service to look at the maps and figure out where we're at. And that should be just about everything. I mean, the last piece of the pie is don't forget TP. You know, some guys forget a toothbrush. It's not going to be the end of the world. You probably should bring one, but if you forget the TP, it's going to be a nightmare. So thanks for sticking around. I'm really looking forward to this hunt. I'm going to film the entire thing. We'll probably do shorts, reels, TikToks to update the hunt as we go, so follow along for the story. And I'm expecting a really significant season this year. I've got a lot of big bucks here in New Hampshire that I've been watching. I've got a lot of primary scrapes that have been very active the last 2 years. So I have this knowledge now, historical knowledge that I might be able to leverage for a successful track job, potentially my first buck with my bow. So I'm super optimistic. I'm also going to do a backcountry bear hunt when I return from Colorado. That'll probably be a 2-night hunt. We'll see. Maybe I'll do 2 weekends of that depending on if I get one or not. But I've got a camera up on the ridge. It's right on a bear travel corridor. They run this path all year long. Specifically in October, they absolutely hammer it. We got a good beech nut crop, so I expect them to be in that bowl. So I'm thinking I can get something good on camera. A big one, hopefully. But again, thanks for sticking around, everybody. If you like this content, please like and subscribe. Please follow along on the channel. I'm looking to do something big with this. I'm extremely passionate about these outdoors, and I know you are too. That's why you're still here. So thank you, and until next time.